Welcome to a brand new episode of the Clear to Send podcast. This is Francois, your host, and today I am with Sri from Arista, and we're going to talk about network access control and different identity solutions. So first, I want to welcome you, Sri, to the show. How are you today?
Francois, thank you. It's wonderful to be part of the show. Happy Friday. It's another Friday.
Yeah.
Bright and sunny out here in California.
And so why don't you present yourself and tell us, what you do at Arista, why are you here today, and then how you got started in that, whole world of, I guess, networking.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So quick intro. My name is Sriram. Call me Sri. I lead the product management for our cognitive campus portfolio at Arista. That includes, our AGNI, which is our NAC solution as well. Been at Arista for a little more than a year, but I've been in the wireless space for more than 2 decades now. I started my career writing software for one of the industry's first wireless LAN controller back in early 2000s. This was in the ABG world, and then moved on to do tech marketing, product management, and previously I've also worked on cloud scale management platforms specifically for networking products. So that's a quick intro about myself.
Awesome, man. And so today you're here with me to talk about the AGNI solution from Arista. And so why don't you just give me like or present what AGNI is and I guess in your own words. And so we better understand what it is, how it works. I know it's cloud-based, so maybe you can give us a little bit of background about what the AGNI solution is.
Sure. Yeah. First off, AGNI stands for Arista Guardian for Network Identity. So, just to keep it light, AGNI in Hindi means fire. So it was named after Agni Mel's our competition, right? So
but oh yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Okay. It melts ice. Yeah.
So we launched AGNI back at RSA in April. The product went GA in end of June. It's a cloud-based NAC solution that's completely delivered from the cloud today. We've been doing beta for almost 7-8 months on this product, and we've seen massive interest from our existing customer base. We are seeing some very exciting use cases with AGNI. There are 2 main reasons why we launched AGNI. The first was, if you look at the tech industry and specifically networking as well, a lot of the services has moved from traditional on-prem to the cloud, right? Be it your identity directory services, right? That's moved to the cloud with Azure, Okta, Ping, etc. And if you look at like core network services, a lot of the control plane, management plane has also moved to the cloud through network architecture evolution. But if you look at NAC, the NAC solution has always remained on-prem. It's always remained legacy. And what that meant was, for our customers, it became really hard to configure, hard to deploy, hard to upgrade, and hard to even like install new services, because every time you install new services, something always broke, right? Because it was based on legacy monolithic application architecture. And we said we got to get customers out of this AGNI, and there was a motivation behind launching AGNI. So we designed this to be completely built on cloud first principles, microservice architecture that's highly scalable, secure, and very, very simple to deploy. The second reason for us is, if you look at a traditional campus network, right, there are three main components: your wired solution, your wireless, and the NAC. I call this as a three-leg stool. And with AGNI, it kind of completes our product portfolio, right? It on the campus side, and every enterprise network that we deployed, whether it's wired, wireless, or both, we always had to integrate with a third-party NAC solution, right? Be it Cisco ICE or Aruba ClearPass or Forescout. So we felt that having our own native NAC solution, we'll be able to deliver, a better integrated, end-to-end solution for our enterprise customers. So those are the two big drivers for us to build AGNI.
So I'm guessing you can use data from the AGNI, from the authentication authorization, and bring that back into the the AI that you have on the wireless side, so you can have a little bit more insights in terms of what's happening with failing connections.
Yes, absolutely. Right. I think that's definitely one of the biggest benefits that customers get. So one of the things that Arista as a company did is we had this big data lake called the network data lake. So network data lake is a common data lake that ingests telemetry from across our product platforms, right? From wired, wireless, AGNI, security. So now you have single data lake where you ingest all this data, and that allows us the ability to kind of correlate and provide context across different domains of the segment, right? And that's how we deliver value to the customers, by being able to say, hey, like if a wireless client failed, can I exactly tell you why it failed by looking at the logs from our NAC solution?
Yeah, that's huge from the operational standpoint, because sometimes when we troubleshoot issues, we have to look at the wireless side of things, and then if the issue is on the authorization or the radio server or the NAC system, then we have to go to the NAC system, look at the logs, and then having the ability to integrate both of them is huge for the operation, because now you can have the different sources to get the information, and you can do some correlation, which meant that you could provide better insights to the operator.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So usually the way we would configure an NAC system in a Wi-Fi network is that we would kind of point the the SSID to specific radio server and all of this. So how does that work with your solution? Like, I'm guessing later on you'll show us a little demo of how we can configure it, but do you kind of use the AGNI in place of a radio server, or yeah?
Absolutely. So let me bring up my screen real quick. That'll help you.
Because now you have to worry about the connections between the access points and AGNI, which is in the cloud, right? So you need to make sure that connection is secured.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
I'm gonna go on slideshow mode real quick.
So we will have just a notary, because this is a podcast. So I always like to mention that when we are sharing screens, we also put everything on YouTube. So if you guys are listening to this podcast audio only, we'll put a link in the show notes so you guys can find the YouTube video. And if you're interested in going back and looking at what Sri is sharing, you can always do that on our YouTube channel.
Oh, thank you.
And we'll try to be very descriptive when we talk about other screens.
Of course. So yeah, so great question. So today, AGNI runs in the cloud, and from a network infrastructure standpoint, all the access point need to do is point to a single instance of AGNI, and then all the magic in the backend in terms of load balancing across locations is automatically taken care by us, right? So you don't have to worry about, like, hey, where are my devices deployed? They will automatically get load balance to the right version of AGNI. So that's the first part. So from a config standpoint, yes, instead of pointing to the radio server, you would point to our AGNI instance. Now, how is this all secure, right? So again, one of our core design principles as we build out AGNI was that we wanted to make this solution secure from grounds up, right? Everything that we did in terms of design, had a huge, security was a very important design principle, and that goes back to how we secure the connection from the AP back to AGNI. So we use a protocol called RadSec. This is a standard protocol, and essentially what RadSec does is it just protects or encrypts the underlying radius packets. Because if you look at radius within an enterprise, right, it uses UDP port 1812, and it's not secure, right? It's unencrypted. And what we said is like, hey, if you want to make that end-to-end communication encrypted, then we have to use RadSec. So we use RadSec, that is industry standard. That's how we secure the connection between our infrastructure and the cloud.
And for RadSec, I know you need certificates installed right on the AP, so you can do that SSL. RadSec is pretty much like radius on inside a SSL TCP connection, right? So do you guys have like all of this built in where the APs will have the proper SSL certificate to establish that secure RadSec connection to AGNI?
Yes, absolutely. So
okay.
So the way it works is, we have AGNI, and once we instantiate AGNI instance for our customer, you can download the root certificate, right? The CA certificate from AGNI, and then from our Wi-Fi cloud management platform, we can just distribute the CA certificate to all the access points at scale, right? So workflow is completely built in, and you can do it at scale in a very easy with a couple of clicks. We have made it super simple for our customers.
Okay, so that's really nice. And in terms of I know that when we talk about NAC, we usually talk about the different ways we can authenticate the users. So today, I think, at least for the cloud NAC solution I've seen, I think IPTLS, maybe IPTTLS are kind of the favorite flavors. What do you guys support in terms of authentication of the wireless devices? What choice did you make in AGNI?
So see, there are broadly, few classes of devices, right? The first is your corporate issued devices. In mostly those devices, either come with a pre-built certificate, right? And the certificates are usually issued through an MDM solution like Intune, Microsoft Intune, or JAMF, and they use IPTLS. The second is employee-owned BYOD devices coming to the corporate network, right? So these are hey, I bring my iPad, my iPhone, I want to connect to my corporate network, and we go through a workflow, correct? So you go through an onboarding workflow where you probably connect to an open SSID, or the IT sends you a link where you can onboard the device kind of out of band, right? So when you come into the network, you connect over certificates, which is TLS. So for these two class of devices, we always recommend IPTLS. We always recommend certificates, and we have different choices of how the certificates can be pushed to the devices. One, like I mentioned, through integration with JAMF and Microsoft Intune, or second is we have our own onboard certificate authority. So if any of our customers want to use our certificate authority, that is that we have as part of our AGNI solution, they can use that as well. Or if they have already have an enterprise certificate authority like Microsoft CA, Symantec, we can integrate with these to issue certificates to the end user devices. So IPTLS is one class of authentication. The second is for the headless devices, right? Like you have IoT devices, you have printers. A great example is a healthcare environment, right? So we have a customer that has about 13 different SSIDs because they wanted to connect different class of these medical devices into the network, and they had to use different PSK. So for them, we use obviously Mac Auth is available for as a base authentication mechanism. So if customers want to just use that, that's available. But then if you want to secure on top, we have something called UPSK, that is called the unique PSK. And essentially what that does is it allows configuring or it allows AGNI to provision a group of devices or a single device with a unique PSK and connect to the network. So that's the other mechanism that we have. And then on top, to actually profile these devices, like especially when you're using Mac Auth and you want to assign them different roles, we have our own profiling engine, right? We use the profiling based on DHCP options, etc. We have a a huge database of fingerprint. But in specific verticals, right? For example, in healthcare, we also integrate with profiling engines that are very specific to this industry. So for example, we integrate with Medigate, right? So essentially what we do is Medigate has a much wider database of all the medical devices, so we can query the profile of the device, the posture of the device from Medigate, and enforce access policies. So it's very flexible.
And I think that's one of the power of the cloud, on top of just being the cloud and helping you to kind of scale and naturally and have microservices and all of this. I think another advantage of being in the cloud is that maybe you can simplify, all of the, because as an operator, sometimes it can be quite overwhelming to have to deal with certificates and all of these integrations with, all of these other tools. Maybe by having the NAC in the cloud, now that can, give you guys, an opportunity to simplify some of the process of, working with certificates, working with profiling, fingerprinting, like you said, and make the NAC less as a because NAC sometimes for the engineers it looks like this complex solution that no one wants to touch and deal with because all of the problem you've talked about earlier. But I think with the cloud we have an opportunity to kind of change the way it works a little bit and kind of simplify it behind. I mean, it's not going to be simple for you guys, but for the end user, it will be simplified. I think we have an opportunity there. Yeah,
absolutely. And Francois, I think you bring up a really good point because one of the core tenets, one is simplifying all these integrations, right? So if you don't mind, actually I want to show you like how easy it is to integrate with these, right, on the platform. And the second is we like I said, there are three core principles when we design AGNI: scalable, simple, and secure. So simplicity was one of the core tenets, and I actually want to show you how simple we have made policy creation and the way network admins can create policies, network access control policies, and actually roll out to the network. Because like you said, I think traditional NAC solutions, like admins are scared of making any policy changes because they're afraid that they might break the network, right? And then troubleshooting becomes a complete nightmare. So let me show you how simplified we made this platform. So this is our AGNI dashboard. So I'm going to launch AGNI. Okay, so this is a dashboard. You can see, kind of an overview of how many users, clients, how many access devices are connected, like a view of the sessions trend. But what I really want to show are these two things, okay? Networks and segments. So networks, think of networks as like, it's either your wired network or a wireless network, right? So, so what we have here is I can add a new network, and I can create a network that says this is for, IoT Wi-Fi, right? and then it's wireless. What's the SSID name? I can say it's IoT, and you actually specify what the authentication mechanism is, right? This is how we define it. Okay, very straightforward. Now we talked about
in this case, you specified UPSK, right?
Yeah, correct, right? I can specify UPSK, or I can specify EPTLS, right? And then you're done with setting up the network, or it could be captive portal or MAC auth, right? So these are the four authentication techniques we really talked about. Okay. Now what I'll do is, if I go back to segments, right, I'm gonna leave here. So this is where our beauty comes in. Okay. So this is where you define all the policies. And I'm just going to expand on this test one. Okay, I'm just going to edit this, right? This is where you define all your NAC policies. So, so what do you want to do with your NAC policies, right? There are just two things. The first is condition, right? The condition is like, hey, how, like, a match condition, which is based on your device type, your location, your, a group membership from, Microsoft Azure AD, group membership from your SAML response. That's your condition. And then the set of actions, right? The action could be like, assign a specific role, assign a specific VLAN, shut the port, right? Or just log, right? These are essentially the two things that you want. So if you look at this, right? I mean, if you look at this condition right here, here you can see that the condition here is the client device type contains a printer, right? And then, you assign a specific VLAN, right? Now it's so easy to add conditions. So if I can add conditions, the first thing is I can actually look at any of the radius attribute, right? Coming from, any of the infrastructure, right? So like I said, this is, we've built a solution to be, not just, it's not a solution that works only on top of Arista. It works on all the other infrastructure components as well, right? Including, Cisco, Aruba, Juniper HPE, etc. And we have added all their radius attributes in our dictionary file. Okay, so you can use the standard radius to assign actions, or you can use the network parameters, right? Like the network authentication type, name, or you can use the user details. So in this case, right, so if you have a group membership, okay, like coming from AD, or if you have a specific domain, right, you could use that to match the conditions. Or the last thing is you can use certificates, right? So this is very useful because, like, say, it depends, if you have, say, two different types of users, okay, say you have BYOD users and you have corporate issued devices, and say the corporate issued devices had a specific, common name, right? And then the BYOD devices had a different common name. You can use that common name to actually put them on different roles, right? So it's, amazingly flexible in terms of how, you can define these conditions.
So it's the page you're showing here is the segments are pretty much where you will define the different match roles, and then any traffic that will be coming in will be matched against these rules. Like, how does it work? Do you have like an order of priority, or is it like the first one that matches
that is correct.
Is used?
Yeah. So every session that comes into AGNI, it goes through these segments, starting from the first segment, right? And then within the segment, it will go through these, match conditions. So it is in order, and then finally it will arrive at, a default, action that needs to be performed.
Okay, so it's very similar to like any other NAC solutions, right? It's just simpler because, because you can just define everything here, right?
Exactly, right? So the cool thing I want to say is, if you look at action, right? Again, the actions are, like I said, it's very generic. So you can assign a VLAN, you can apply ACLs, allow deny access, right? And if you select Arista Wi-Fi, you can actually say assign profile role, or right, like I said, we have a way, to send specific radius attributes, right? If I say radius attributes, I can use IETF, which is a standard attribute, or I can send Arista specific attributes, Arista Wi-Fi specific attributes, any of our competitors attributes as well. So because this is just a dictionary file in the backend, and this is the other beauty of being on the cloud, because like say, tomorrow, we have, new attributes showing up, I don't have to, upgrade the entire environment, to make those attributes available, right? I can just, say, hey, I'm just going to, update my dictionary file with the new attributes, and, there you go. And you'll see all of that right here.
So if you're using the UPSK, how does that work here? If you have different UPSK and you want to assign different VLANs, like could you do one VLAN per PSK? Is that something that scales that way?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So you do the same thing, right? So you would define a UPSK, right? And there, I think the condition would be UPSK.
Authentication.
Sorry, yeah. Network, user client, authentication type, UPSK, right?
Okay.
I think you can match the UPSK group to say, what, like, assign a specific VLAN.
Okay. So you could have, let's say you have a hotel and you have, a UPSK that's created when, whenever a new reservation is made, then you can have a VLAN attached to like a room or something. Okay.
Yeah, correct. So you can define the UPSK groups in the networks, and then say, for different UPSK groups, assign them different VLANs. Okay. So that way you segment them. See, the other use case of UPSK is, this very common is, let's take an example of, a university, right? Like where you have, students, coming to the dorm, or even a large MDU, right? Like multi-dwelling unit, right? What you want is, see, the problem with VLANs, right? The VLANs is not scalable, right? The moment you go beyond a certain amount of VLANs, like you cannot assure that all your, like upstream devices, right? Like the switches, can support so many VLANs, on natively on the device. So what we came up with is, we said, what, like segmenting using VLAN is one way, but there is a better way to do this, and that is one of the unique things of how we use UPSK to segment, and I'll talk about it. So let's take an example of like I said, a university dorm or an MDU. In a university dorm, you have a student walking in, and typically, the student would have a couple of devices, right? Like, a MacBook, iPhone, iPads, and then would also have, printers and, a gaming device, right? It's common. Now, what you want to do is you want to allow these users to get onto the network, but ensure that, the devices cannot talk to each other, right? Like when I say students, devices belonging to a single student can talk to each other, but devices that are, that are belonging to different students, they cannot talk to each other. And that's exactly where UPSK comes in. So what we do is we have a mechanism by which the students can come in, okay? They would, go onto a portal where they would register themselves, and they will be given a PSK. So I'm going to show like a quick demo, if you don't mind. Okay. So assume that this is, so what I'll do is, sorry, I'm sorry for going back and forth, but let's say you have a UPSK network. Okay. I'm going to go click on a UPSK network and show you how that workflow is done. Go to networks. Leave. Okay, let's say there is this UPSK, right? Onboarding. Okay. If I enable onboarding, what that allows me is, it allows me to onboard, and from here I would actually copy. Okay, sorry, I think pick the right one. Just give me a second here. Certificates, Mac auth. Okay, there you go. Okay, there you go. Okay, so what you can do is, so this is a Acme BYOD network, right? This is using UPSK, as you can see here. Okay, and this is the initial passphrase for the first time you want to, onboard. Okay.
So that's what you give to the people, right? To connect.
That's what you would give to the people to connect the first time on the network.
Okay.
Or so either, so there are different ways, right? So either I walk into the university, right? I connect to that, I know that this is my PSK that I need to log in with. Or what you can also do is you can actually copy this URL right here, okay, and send it to the students before even they come to the come to the university.
Okay.
Okay. So they can actually onboard the device completely, out of band offline, right? And we also have a way where you can actually print a QR code and you can scan the QR code to get to the onboarding link. Now, when you get to the onboarding link, and that's what I want to show a quick, video, because I can't do a live demo here. But this is that onboarding link, right? However you get to. Now, the first thing it does is we ask the user to authenticate against some kind of identity solution, whether it's like university identity, backend, Okta, Azure, Microsoft AD. That's the first step when you get to that link. So I'm going to play this real quick, right? So the user enters their credentials, okay, and once they enter the credentials, right, and once they succeed, okay, so yeah, so it's now this is tied to Microsoft AD. Once they type the password, succeed. Okay, so I'm going to pause here. This is the unique passphrase that is given to that particular user.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, I have this passphrase, right? So now the good thing is, I can copy the passphrase. I can, use this passphrase to, to connect, now to connect to the, connect to the network using the new passphrase that is given to me. And now what will happen is the AGNI will open up and say, now you have access, to, it'll probably put the user on a different VLAN or a different role and give access to, all part of the network.
Can you configure AGNI to, to give different network access based on the fact that the student is connecting using the first default password versus the student passwords to kind of force the students to go through the process?
Absolutely. So if the student connects using the default password, right, the only thing that the student can get to is the onboarding captive portal page.
Okay.
Yeah, because we know that the students are using the onboarding PSK. Yeah. So we force the student to go through this workflow. Now, the cool thing is two things. Number one, you see this manage clients, right? What I can actually do is, say, if I have to onboard a printer, okay, if I have to onboard, say,
a gaming console.
Gaming console, right? Like you cannot go through this workflow, right? So you can click on manage clients, and that will give you the option to to add the MAC address. Now, what happens is the backend, we have tied those devices also to this PSK.
Okay.
So that's one way to add new devices for headless devices. The second mechanism is, like, say, I onboarded the first time using my MacBook. Now I want to connect my iPhone and my iPad. I don't have to go through the same workflow. I can use the same PSK that I was given. And the moment I use the same PSK in the backend, I will, the AGNI will automatically know that these are the devices that belong to that UPSK group and automatically create that, UPSK group membership within those devices. So now you have this group membership where, I onboarded the device, my MacBook using this workflow. So that gets added. My printer and my gaming console gets added because I added them through managed clients. And then my iPad and iPhone got added because I just use that passphrase, the new passphrase, directly on that SSID. And now what happens is all these, the group membership, right? The MAC addresses that belong to that UPSK group is now pushed at scale to our wireless infrastructure. And the wireless infrastructure creates, again, this is our, our secret sauce. So the wireless infrastructure knows which devices belong to the same group, and they can enforce segmentation right at the L2 layer in the access point itself. So what happens is we can ensure that the devices can talk, devices belonging to the same PSK group can talk to each other, and they can only talk to the gateway. So that it can go out to internet, but they cannot talk to other devices on the same network. So that's how we have implemented the segmentation. So it's really used for these universities, DOMs, and MDU kind of use cases.
So how do you guys deal with WPA3 and MAC randomization with the UPSK? Because I know it's been a challenge since the MAC randomization is more and more present, and WPA3 also.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So that's one of our unique part of a solution as well. So if you look at today's implementation of all the PSK solutions, with WPA2 there is a technique called WPA2 cracking that we all take advantage of to make this different PSK solutions work. But that is not possible anymore with WPA3 because it's more secure. So what we did is we actually went back to the whiteboard and said, no, how do we solve? Because given that we want the wireless network to become more secure, right? So we are asking customers to start enabling WPA3, but then how do you solve this problem? So we went back to the drawing board and we came up with a very intuitive solution where we no longer attach the PSK or the PSK that is given to every user to their MAC address, but it's actually attached to their identity, right?
Okay.
So remember, when the user onboards, they have to log in using their identity, either through Microsoft Azure or through any other identity solution. We use the user identity as the key attribute on which the PSKs are attached to, and that's how we are able to work around the limitations or make it work in WPA3. Now for MAC randomization, it's very simple because we don't use MAC, right? We use user identity. Even if the MAC changes, the only thing is, the only thing that we do is we ask the user or we direct the user to go through the sign-in workflow.
Portal. Yeah.
Exactly. And once the user signs in, we know that okay, this is the user identity, and we match the PSK in the backend to their appropriate identity, and that's how we are able to work. So this is kind of very, very unique to us, Francois. This is patent pending, but we're this is, I think this a lot of customers were super excited that we were able to get this working on WPA3.
Yeah, it's what I'm taking away from this is that the identity is becoming very important. I mean that, I guess that's why you guys call it the identity solutions, but also the identity providers is very important. And I'm guessing that you guys, when you do your testing, you have connections to like cloud-based identity providers like Azure or Okta. Yeah, here you have it, one login, Okta, Microsoft Azure, and Google Workplace, which is great. How do you deal with customers that do not have these cloud-based identity base yet, and they still have like an AD that's local in their network? Like, could we still leverage this, or do you have ways for them to kind of integrate with cloud platforms?
Yeah, so very interesting question. But what we've noticed, Francois, is most of our customers, right? Like every enterprise customer that we talked to so far, if they were, previously using Microsoft AD, there is some service that actually, syncs all their Active Directory in the cloud, because I don't think enterprise can afford to have all the identity only on-prem, right? Because, like there is always some kind of SSO, there is always some kind of application that would actually need access to that. So there is always a service that they've implemented where they synchronize the directory or the identity that is running on-prem. whether it's, through, Okta, so we have not come across, an enterprise where, purely their identity is sitting only on-prem. They have these services that actually synchronizes and brings into the cloud, and that's how we integrate.
So you could, okay, that makes sense to me. I was just thinking about, I was talking to a customer recently, and I believe that they wanted to kind of use something similar for some of their customers, but the customers wouldn't have like an identity created into, it's not like the user of the Wi-Fi is a customer. It's more like a guest, I guess you could, or like a long-term guest. So, but I'm also thinking that in these type of scenarios, we could also leverage APIs to automatically create identity accounts, for the long-term guests, and be able to, kind of do it in the back end without the user being, aware of it too much. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. So the platform is, completely open and API driven,
Okay.
right? So for example, right, like, like the healthcare customer that we talked about, I mean, if they want to onboard all the devices, right, into UPSK groups, right, and say they have some kind of, MDM solution to configure the PSKs on the medical devices, what they can do is they can actually, import all the devices from their inventory using APIs into AGNI, along with the PSKs that they want to use for these medical devices. So the onboarding mechanism can be completely driven through APIs, and the same goes for, the user identity as well.
And through the API, can you also get the logs from the authentication? So let's say user was not able to connect because of wrong password or certificate. Do you guys have some ways to kind of send these information as well through the API?
Absolutely, yes. Yep.
Okay. So if you're using like another vendor, let's say you don't have Arista, you have another vendor, you could still get this information out of AGNI, right?
Yeah. Like I said, I think our platform is designed to be completely open, API first. Everything that you see in the dashboard, you'll be able to either configure or extract using APIs.
Okay. Okay. Which is, very common nowadays in cloud tools, which is, nice to see. Awesome. So can you use AGNI to also help with remote workers, people working from home? Could you kind of differentiate their access network based on how they're connecting back to the network, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, see, one of the things that we talked about, again, I'll kind of go share my slide again. Might be easier to explain. Just give me a quick second here. Okay, I'm just having some issues sharing now. Okay, for some reason I can't share anymore.
No problem.
Just give me a second, sorry. Okay, that's weird. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So, so one of the things that we have is, we integrate with endpoint security solutions like, CrowdStrike and Cortex. And where, that applies is, especially like, typically in remote working use cases, right? So I'm, the employees are at home or connecting, from a coffee shop, right? They're connected over, a public SSID that we don't have any control over, correct? Now, we have these, endpoint security agents running on these devices all the time. So they're going to use some kind of VPN or, some kind of endpoint security agents, sitting on these devices. And that is what is going to be used for creating secure VPN connections back into the corporate, right? If you need to access, private resources. Now, when like where the integration comes in is when these devices, right, show up on the corporate network. So what we do is we can actually, and say if these devices for some reason were compromised, right? Because, they were working from a coffee shop, they downloaded some malware. So what we can do is AGNI can, talk to Cortex or to CrowdStrike, pull the profile of the client that that is trying to connect to the network, and then use that profiling information to assign specific actions. So whether it's like, hey, if I get an event, or if Cortex, Palo Alto Cortex XDR tells me that the device is compromised, or if CrowdStrike tells me that the risk profile is high for this client, then you can create an action that says, put this client on a quarantine VLAN, or change the role, or disallow access, right? So those are actions that you can do, and that's how we kind of tie this these things together. So our the way we approach this is we want to be able to integrate with these third-party solutions, so that we can ensure that when the clients come back to the network, we can understand the context from these endpoint agents and use that to apply appropriate security policies on the network.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So AGNI is part of the Cloud Vision solution. So I'm guessing if you're an Arista customer, you can get access to AGNI from that the Cloud Vision dashboard and get into the AGNI dashboard. How does it work if I want to try AGNI with my network? Like how do you guys work? Like regardless of which vendor I'm using, if it's Arista or someone else, like how would I just get access to it if I want to do a trial, or test it for a little while, test it with some of the integration that I have in my environment? How do you guys, and also maybe you can touch up on pricing, like how do you guys charge? Do you have like a licensing model? Is it like per request? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So let me address the first one. Yes, we do have a 90-day trial on AGNI. You can, if you're an existing Arista customer using Cloud Vision, we have an in product a way by which you can actually request for a demo license. If not, just reach out to our sales team from the website, and we'll be able to get you get anybody and a demo license, right? So 90 days of demo license, and from there all you need is like, hey, either Arista access points or third-party access points, or Arista switches or third-party switches, and as long as they support RadSec, they should be good to go, right? That's all you need. Get this started. And you saw the interface. It's very simple to get a network up and running. It's very simple to get the policy set up, and it's very easy to establish the connectivity to any identity provider. And again, we can either use the onboard certificate authority, or we can with any of your enterprise certificate authority. So getting started is like is super simple. On the license, we actually charge per device. We don't charge per session. We charge per device, and it's a subscription model. There are different tiers of like packs in terms of devices. That's how the licensing model is.
And sorry, do you guys have any documentations for AGNI? So if I want to create an integration with Okta, like, do you guys have some sort of documentation that can guide me through the process?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's a good product, right? So if you go to Arista Community Central and search for AGNI and the you'll get access to all the documents. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll put a link in the show notes for the listeners so if you want to take a look at this. Awesome. Sri, do you want to talk about something we missed, or did we kind of cover everything?
I think we covered everything, and one last thing I want to show is so we've also, like we talked about how we made deployment configuration very simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also want to show you how we've made troubleshooting easy, right? So we have this a feature called Ask Ava. So it's LLM driven chat interface, right? And I'm going to show that real quick here. I'm going to bring that up. Okay, there you go, Ask Ava, right? So essentially, it's a chat interface. It's an LLM driven, so the LLM is used to identify the intent of the user question, right? You can type anything here, and it identifies. And second is it also identifies the tokens, right? So for example, if you say like Alice or the site or this AP, right? It'll identify what those mean and attach a meaning to that to what you've typed here. So in this case, right? So again, if you go back here to the dashboard, look at the sessions. Okay, sorry, sessions. So there's user called Alice Major. So what I can say is you can say tell me about Alice Major.
And so here you're getting access to this interface inside the AGNI dashboard, but could you get access to the same information inside like the CloudVision dashboard or the configuration dashboard?
Yeah. So the configuration, the AGNI configuration is right here, right? In the same thing, right? Today this interface is available only inside the AGNI dashboard.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you could totally have it somewhere else in the in the future, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that you can see where we are going with this, right? So we want to use this as a common, chat engine that can power, across platforms. So again, right? So I typed a query. Now, it shows me, all the, all the context about that user, right? So it just, plain English, it says, the system found the user in the organization has 2 devices onboarded. The last active on the network was 14 hours ago, and there are no devices connected right now. So what I can do is I can actually from here I can drive and click to that particular user to see what the details about that user. Obviously, the user was using passphrase, and we also kind of pull all the information about the user, right? The user attributes, right? So what is the CN, DC. And the cool thing is, right, one of the things that we did is, under the user, we actually tell you how many devices, the user has. Instead of just showing you a list of all the devices, this is the other view, which is, hey, I can show you all the devices belonging to that user. Now, if I go back and I can also click on a particular client, right? Now, this is, a specific client. And it tells me everything about that client for what is the fingerprint, right? Like all the HTTP user agent, DHCP options, etc. What is the last session details? Was it successful? And when I click on show sessions, it tells me all the session that this device reached out to this network. And for every session, I can go look at details. So if I go look at more details, it tells me the input attribute, right? Radius attribute, output attribute. What is the response that was sent by AGNI to to the infrastructure device? And if you want to knock yourself out, you can actually see the logs, right? So these are very detailed logs for that particular session. It's going to show up, right? So again, we have we have all the information. We show information very progressively, right? Start with high level simple information, and we allow you to drill down and get to how much ever however deep you want to get with the troubleshooting.
And if you do have an issue, do you is the system bringing that issue back at the first at the RVA screen, like at the beginning, or do you have to kind of drill down to get the data?
You have to, right? So from here it tells you the client. So I mean, I can start from the dashboard, and the dashboard tells me how many have failed, right? From here I can click through, right, and tell me which are the clients that failed. Now if I go to the sessions, again the session tell me the same thing. So it looks like Bobby failed, and then if I expand, right? It is TLS. Now what I can do is I can click on this to get the exact same details, right? Now this will tell me, why it failed, what the failure was. It says, TLS, read failed. I can look at the input attributes to say, okay, was the certificate all good? Was the radius attributes all good? And then I can look at the show logs to get the details of why it actually failed, right? So I can figure out, I can go down and it'll say that somewhere it was not able to read the certificates. There you go.
Okay.
Right. So again, all the information that you need is right at your fingertip.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, Sri. Well, thank you very much for showing us the AGNI solution and what you guys are doing with with doing NAC in the cloud. I think we're definitely seeing a trend, and it makes sense as all of the other services are moving to cloud, like you mentioned earlier. For the identity for the identity providers, but also from the wireless providers as well. So it makes sense that now we do NAC in the cloud. I think that some people will kind of be maybe hesitant for like security reasons, just like any other service. But I feel like in a few years everyone will be there. So thank you for your time. We'll link information in your show notes. If you want to send, a slide deck or something you want me to share as well, feel free to do this. We'll add it to the show notes. And you guys can, watch this on YouTube as well if you want to go and take a look at what the dashboard looks like. It's a good idea to take a look at the YouTube channel. Thank you, Sri.
Francois, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sri. Thank you. Bye-bye.